Happy Monday, everyone. You're watching Mets Daily. It was a sweeping weekend for the New York Mets at Citi Field against the Toronto Blue Jays. And I'm your host, Jake Brown. Excuse me sounding like Squidward today. My right ear is clogged. I'm cold, congested, but we power through here on Mets Daily. So smash that thumbs up to me for being sick as a dog, but still doing the damn thing. Make sure you comment below what you think of the first weekend at Citi Field. And it was remarkable. And for the Mets, not just the fact that they swept, but the fact that the fans showed up in numbers. Despite the cold, and by the way, Saturday was cold. Friday was actually nice. It was around 66 degrees. It did end up raining. Saturday, it rained a little bit. It was drizzling. It was cold at night. Sunday was a little bit cold in the 50s. So fans still showed up. The Mets sold 121,771 tickets for their season opening series. That number, roughly 29% higher than their first home series last year and about 21% better than their best three-game series at any point last season. The buzz is real. The hype is real when it comes to this Mets team, and you're seeing why. They're not even playing their best baseball. There are guys struggling. We'll talk about it. There are guys like Juan Soto who aren't at their best right now, yet they're winning ball games. And I'm not saying the Blue Jays are world beaters, but the Blue Jays aren't bums. Blue Jays are a pretty competent team, and the Mets swept their asses out of Queens over the weekend. And what a series it was. So good to be back at the ballpark, to see all my Citi Field family, to see all people, watch the show, see my friends. 22nd straight home opener with my dad. Everything that surrounded this weekend was awesome. The giveaways, this was the Soto shuffle, the pin. The player's pin was pretty cool. Got that on Saturday. And then Sunday, the schedule frame, little picture frame. It's the home games. And obviously the Mets home this week against the Marlins. So those were the two giveaways, and just electric vibes. I mean, home opener electric, and the traffic was nuts, so I made it just in time for the start of the game. Saturday, the comeback. Let's talk all about it. Let's go through this weekend and what a weekend it was for the Mets. And first off, like I said, largest attendance for opening series in Citi Field history. Friday, 5-0. Pete Alonso's first at-bat since signing the contract, gets a huge ovation. He homers. I mean, what a moment. 2-run homer in his first at-bat. You love to see that. Lindor, he got on. He got a call overturned. They said he was out at second. He was actually safe because they missed the tag on him. And then Pete Homer's just awesome. Tyler McGill, I mean, how awesome has he been for this Mets team? Absolutely incredible. 5 1/3, scoreless innings, 2 hits. He was great. And Max Craddock. I mean, Max Craddock has been a godsend for this team. This was the guy who made the last spot of the roster. Hasn't pitched in 3 years since the big leagues, and continues to absolutely dominate. 2 scoreless innings to end the home opener. This is a guy that grew up a Mets fan. Favorite player, David Wright. David Wright calls him when he makes the roster, and he finishes off the home opener, the most hyped home opener. Wow, that had to be incredible for Max Craddock. Saturday, again, very cold, but down 2-0. Mets leaving guys on left and right. Marte pinch hits. He grounds out to end a rally in the 7th. In the 8th, just, guys getting on base, finding their way on. Jesse Winker, 2-run triple to tie the game in the 8th, 2-2. And, it went against the wall. It probably should have been a inside the park homer for Jesse Winker. He did a pimp job to first base, and he probably would have had it inside the park. Or George Springer ended up leaving the game. He bangs into the wall. Ends up being a triple, probably inside the Parker, but in the end, the Mets end up winning. Lindor, a walk-off sac fly. Mets putting good at-bats together. Siri scores the winning run. He got on because of a walk. A wild pitch gets him over. Mets played a little small ball. And, for the struggles, Lindor, and everyone was worried early on. Lindor was all over the place this weekend. And whether it was a hit, a walk, fielding a play, Lindor was an impact player this weekend for the Mets. And he had an impact Saturday with that walk-off sac fly. I go back on Sunday. Sunday is when I woke up with the ear clogged. I was dealing with a cold all week, but the ear was clogged. I said, an F-bomb. And I said, we're going to the game anyway. So I ended up, first row, third base side, good seats. Went solo. I was like, I don't want to deal with people saying what for everything I say. I went solo, had a great time, and the one time I went up to see, one of my guys from Otis and Finn's Barbershop, shout out to them, that pink jacket I always wear from them, and they get the 2 runs there. Pete Alonso RBI single, Nemo sac fly, bang, bang, boom, 2-0. David Peterson struggles in the 5th. You're wondering what's going on. He looked like he got hurt. It happened that he had blurred vision. He was feeling sick, dealt with stomach issue. They kept him in to face Jimenez. He hits him. That's the run. They take him out. And then, shocker, Max Kranick comes in a big spot, bases loaded, gets out of it. The Mets get 4 1/3 innings of scoreless ball from their relief. Kranick, Reed Garrett, A.J. Minter, and Edwin Diaz shuts the door for the sweep. And, Pete Alonso, 2 for 3 day, the RBI single. So far, 290, 3 homers, 11 RBIs, a 420 on base percentage. Pete Alonso has been great so far, and I don't want to say too much too soon, but he's off to a fantastic start, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But, it's really been the pitching has been the story for the Mets. First in MLB and team ERA, they're first in ERA for starters, they're first in ERA for relievers in all of Major League Baseball. And everyone wanted to talk about the Mets and this rotation sucks and they don't have true ace. It's the Jeremy Hefner pitching lab. You can't sleep on the lab. You can't sleep on this pitching lab and this pitching coach and what they do with pitchers. Griffin Canning was great. He just couldn't get through the 5th, but Griffin Canning was really solid. 1 run through 4+. He just had a high pitch count, couldn't get through the 5th, but otherwise Griffin Canning was really solid as well in the time he was out there. Like I said, McGill was amazing. So this pitching continues to be remarkable. And a great weekend for the Mets against Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and the Blue Jays. And speaking of Vladimir Guerrero Jr., we wake up Monday morning to the news and the potential pipe dream is over. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. will not be a New York Met next year or the future like I had hoped for. He has signed a 14-year, $500 million extension with the Blue Jays. And I bet a part of this for Vladdy was, hey, if I don't have a great year, I might lose some money. Let me get a deal done so there's no stress on me at all this year. Like, I could suck this year, and I got $500 million coming to me. And it ends up being a fair AAV, $35 million a year, no deferred money in this deal. But Vladdy is now a Blue Jay for life. So he is off the board. So now we got to start thinking, hey, what are the Mets going to do at first base now next year? So let's look at the options here for 2026 for the New York Mets. Pete Alonso is the obvious option. Pete has a $24 million player option. If he keeps hitting the way he's hitting, he's probably going to opt out of that and look for something long-term. Listen, I don't know if the Mets want to negotiate again with Scott Boras with Pete Alonso. They hated, they publicly hated how the negotiations went. And I think a lot of Mets fans are saying, it's obvious, make Pete a Met for life. I've talked about this before, but it's not that obvious. He's still going to be in his mid-30s, when this contract happens, early to mid-30s. I don't know if the Mets are going to want to pay Pete that $150, $200 million. So internally, if it's not Pete, because if Pete keeps going, he's probably opting out. I don't think he's going to take that $24 million. If he does, I think that's great for the Mets. It gives them more time to develop their other guys on that left side. Ryan Clifford is the next guy in line for me, in my opinion. Power hitter, really good eye, AA. This year he'll probably be a AAA at some point. Ryan Clifford is probably the next man in line. Put Mark Vientos, if they do want to move Vientos to first and play either Acuna or Mauricio at third, that's a potential option for next year as well. Because, listen, Brett Beatty stinks. I try to tell you all, don't look too much into his spring stats. I rooted for him to do well. His approach is terrible. He never gets to a 3, any kind of ahead of any count. Never gets to a 3-2 count. God forbid he gets to a 3-ball count. Ryan Clifford, Brett Beatty sucked. He's been awful, and he's wasting a roster spot for the Mets. And everyone laughed at me. They said, Acuna Matata, you're a joke, blah, blah, blah. He shouldn't be in the major leagues. Acuna hasn't been great either, but at least he's made an impact defensively and on the base pass. Brett Beatty has made 0 impact whatsoever. So he doesn't even belong on this list because Brett Beatty needs to get traded. Mark Vientos, internal. Luke Ritter is a name. Probably not going to happen, but just to think about. He's been in AAA the last 2 years. He did hit 26 homers in AAA last year. And Nick LaRusso, guy we had on the show, he's in AA to start the year. His goal is to be in the majors by next year. So Nick LaRusso, a power hitter that can play third and first, is a name to keep an eye on. And then externally, Josh Naylor will be a free agent. Not a bad option there if you could get him at an affordable rate. Yandy Diaz is on that list. he has a $12 million club option with the Rays. So there's a chance the Rays just keep him for that $12 million. But if the Rays go cheap, with the ballpark saga and everything going on there, and they say, yeah, we're not going to keep Yandy for $12 million. We're going to pick up someone internally for $800,000. He becomes available. Would love Yandy Diaz if they could get him. Paul Goldschmidt, 39 years old. Not sure you want to go that route. Do you revisit the Wilmer Flores route? 35 years old. Would not hate Wilmer Flores on a cheap deal. And then Ty France, I wouldn't love that. But on this list, if it's not Pete, I would love Clifford. I'm very high on Clifford. I would love Yandy Diaz. I would not mind Josh Naylor or Wilmer Flores. I'm not in love with the other options. Not in love with the 39-year-old Goldschmidt. Not in love with Ty France. I don't think Nick LaRusso will be ready yet. Not in love with Ritter. Not in love with Vientos at first base defensively. So that's your list. Again, we don't want to – we're talking about the current Mets right now, and we don't want to dive too far ahead of the future, but it's something to keep in the back of your mind as Vladdy is now off the board. Who's on first for the Mets in 2026? Well, who's on the schedule on Monday is the Miami Marlins as they come to Citi Field, and expect cold rain, very old and very cold, in the words of Home Alone 3, and the Mets will play through it, likely get at least 2 of the games in. On Monday, it's Kodai Senga on the hill against the 5-4 Marlins, as the Mets took 2 out of 3 from them last week in Miami. On Tuesday, it'll be Clay Holmes on the hill, and then on Wednesday for the Mets, it'll be an afternoon game. It'll be Tyler McGill on the hill. So listen, if the Mets keep playing their way they're playing, they can sweep the series against the Marlins. And despite the cold, despite the rain, we'll see if they end up getting all 3 in. It looks like Tuesday and Wednesday are clear. Tonight there is rain, but it looks like there's a window. But, man, it's going to be in the 30s and 40s, cold, tough to get a grip on the ball. We'll see what ends up happening. But what a fantastic weekend at Citi Field. The Mets are 6-3. The vibes are good. Vladdy won't be a part of the future of this team, but the Mets still have good internal options, and they could end up negotiating with Pete and trying to make Pete a Met for life or a Met for 3 to 5 years, whatever it may be. But Pete Alonso is about to earn himself a lot of money if he keeps playing the way he does. It's way too small sample size, but you like the approach you're seeing from Pete. You're liking his situational hitting, his clutch hitting. Pete Alonso's off to a really good start, and I'm excited to see what else he has in store. And listen, Juan Soto has not been great, but he hasn't been terrible. But with Soto not great, Lindor not great, Beatty terrible, Vientos has been terrible, the Mets are 6-3. Like, they're getting enough production to win ball games, and that's what we love to see. And hopefully we'll be back tomorrow. I did it today, how sick I was. We'll probably be back tomorrow. I'm Jake Brown, at Jake Brown Radio. Mets Daily, at Mets Daily Show on Twitter. Smash that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Share the channel. Comment below. What do you think of the first base options? Who do you want moving forward? What do you think of the Mets so far? What are you worried about? And thanks for watching Mets Daily. We'll see you tomorrow.